this is Pat Ennis of Ennis Legacy Partners. Welcome to the Exit Readiness Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Walter Dial, CPA and tax partner at GRF, CPAs and Advisors in Bethesda, Maryland. Our mission here on the podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building sellable business value and for planning your eventual exit from the business. We want to help you build a business that's sellable and then exit successfully on your own terms and conditions. Our clients and most small business owners are experiencing challenges right now that they may have never faced before, at least to this level due to the coronavirus crisis. And so for the foreseeable future, our conversations here are going to be more focused on that in an attempt to provide some helpful and relevant information that will help you as a business owner first, and most importantly, stay in business. And then second, position yourself for strength as we eventually come out of this current trial. And so our topic today is focused on risk management in the midst of this virus. And the actual topic is entity-wide strategies to navigate your organization during the COVID crisis.
Yeah, that's right, Pat. This is Walter. Today, we have with us Melissa Musser, who actually we were really excited. We added her to the firm a couple years ago to head up our risk management division. So she's a principal at GRF CPAs and Advisors. Melissa has over 15 years professional experience. And here at the firm, she and her team deliver comprehensive risk-based assessments to help organizations respond to strategic, financial, compliance, operational, and IT risks. Her experience includes establishing, maintaining, and optimizing internal controls, compliance, enterprise risk management, and cybersecurity programs. Melissa is the proud recipient of the 2018 AICPA Information Management and Technology Assurance Standing Ovation Award. I don't think she anticipated having to use her skills to address a pandemic. But Melissa, that's exactly what we're asking you to do today. You mentioned in a recent article you wrote that a risk team should be formed to address COVID. Can you expand for our listeners exactly what you meant by that, and who should be on the risk team, and what type of action should they be considering?
All right. Hi, and thank you for the introduction. And I'm really, it's disappointing that we have to be here today talking about this, but it is an honor and a privilege, and in any way I can be of service to your clients. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So a lot of what I do is helping organizations implement enterprise risk management, and that includes forming what I call a risk council or a risk committee. And then also coming up with a playbook for enterprise risk management through the lens of your strategy. And with that is a methodology for assessing the likelihood and impact of certain risks to your organization. One of the benefits of having ERM in place is that for those unknowable risks like this pandemic that we're experiencing right now, or, take a couple years back, the Me Too movement, if you have it in place already, you're a little bit more likely to be able to respond quickly. You'll already have your team put together. But let's say you don't, and that's okay. We're going to help you through that today. So form a risk team if you haven't already. I'm sure you've probably met with the other executives or leaders of your firm, but you want to start to meet typically in a non-pandemic or crisis situation. I would still suggest you take that team and you meet monthly or quarterly, but you still need to meet, maybe do tabletop exercises or whatever else you may need to do to work through risk management. But for right now, you want to have a group of people that can represent the different areas of risk. That would be IT, HR, strategy, fundraising, production, kind of depends on what your organization is, but you want somebody to represent all those different categories. And some of the first and most critical things, and you may have done a lot of these already, is just basically, how are you going to respond if an employee of yours is diagnosed with the coronavirus? Who are you going to notify? What are you going to do? Let's come up with a plan for that now. Determine if you're going to close your offices longer than the quarantine period. You may be closed right now, you may be essential, but you want to figure out, what are you going to do when the quarantine's lifted? Are you going to continue working? And if you are, how are you going to disinfect the office before employees return? So those are some of the most critical things you need to be thinking about right now with your team.
Yeah. So Melissa, who should be on that risk team? Well, I think you mentioned, right? HR, IT, strategy, production. Can you help summarize some of the steps those team members would take or the organization should be considering in those areas of HR, operations, finance, and information technology?
Yeah, let me go through a little bit more of a deep dive. And obviously, every organization context is going to be a little different. Obviously, this isn't legal advice, but this is me really trying to help and provide some guidance. So let's say, you're likely going to have some type of HR, marketing, communication person. You're going to want to identify a point person of your organization that's going to be communicating, do a lot of the communication to your employees and really at all levels of the organization. And ideally, this person will be the one that can answer questions and answer them proactively. You're going to want to address to your employees and your stakeholders how they can minimize the chances of becoming infected, washing hands frequently. And, if they do have to come into the office and work, let's make sure there's enough soap, paper towels, things for them to do the things that you're, saying you want them to do. Make sure there's sufficient custodial services to keep your workplace as virus-free as possible if you do need to continue working. If you haven't done so already, make policy decisions about arranging for remote work, travel if it's necessary, extending paid leave benefits, and a whole host of other issues that you're going to need to look at as far as your policies go. Organizational charts with personal contact information, including mobile numbers, are going to become very important so that people can access that and call people as needed. Another thing, and even our firm has done this, is create a COVID information page on your website, or even just an intranet for your employees or externally for your constituents to kind of share information, key contacts, policies, updates, articles, just different things that could be useful to your stakeholders. And obviously, continue to communicate with your stakeholders, send out emails and updates, direct them to that website, or if you're not going to create a website, direct them to the CDC or different things that, just that you can be helpful as possible. Moving on to your operations team. I think one of the most important things to be thinking about is cross-training your employees. Let's think of who are the critical employees that you have right now. Do you have someone as a backup if someone gets sick? Right now would be a really good time to start documenting what we call SOPs, standard operating procedures. Someone might get sick, someone might need to care for someone. So you need to start identifying that and documenting as best as you can. Another thing to think about are your third parties. Do you have a lot of eggs in one basket? Your third parties are likely going to be affected. You need to prepare for major disruptions in whether it's your supply chain or your IT vendors or any of your vendors. You really need to think about, okay, who are our critical vendors? This kind of gets into what we call third-party risk management. So who are our critical vendors? Do we have any backups or alternates as needed? You may want to even call them to see how they're doing, what their plan is. So that's something to definitely consider. Another thing to consider is just contacting your insurance broker. Just kind of understand what kind of insurance policies you may hold that may help you in response to this COVID and any COVID-related disruptions that you have. And then another thing to really think about is, what are some new or innovative ways you can assist the populations you serve in addressing the coronavirus? Maybe you kind of change your mission completely. We're seeing a lot of organizations just, stop production and start production on some type of medical equipment, or, what are some ways that you can really add value to the populations that you're serving? I think that's a really important topic to bring up in this risk council. Moving on to IT. If you haven't already, Zoom is all the rage right now. Making sure that your employees or constituents have access to Zoom meetings or some type of video conferencing tool has been a huge help. You're going to want to update and test your remote work. Likely you're probably already in that scenario. I don't know if you're going to need to maybe think about increasing bandwidth or licenses. Your IT team is probably already dealing with that right now, but that's something to consider. And then cybersecurity awareness may be more critical than ever right now. Unfortunately, those fraudsters are still out there trying to think of ways to take advantage of this unfortunate situation. So, cybersecurity awareness training is important. People not clicking links. There's also the risk of privacy. A lot of times, you want to make sure people aren't necessarily on their home Wi-Fi. Depending on the type of jobs they do, they may need to go through the VPN to make sure that information is protected. You also have to think about, in terms of privacy, are people printing out documents? Are people dealing with, HIPAA-related information? Or all those still privacy principles still apply? You still need to maintain, even paper documents need to be disposed of properly. Lots of things to think about in that regard. You may need to be updating your policies. IT needs to be talking to people about how to make sure there aren't any violations or mishaps. Also, people shouldn't be using their private email during this time, especially to transmit sensitive data, or it needs to be encrypted. So I think simple emails reminding people of these kind of basic things are really important at this time. People just might not be thinking about it. So that's something for your IT team to be thinking about. Moving on to your finance function, I don't know if you're doing any kind of fundraising or whatever you're doing to raise money. You're going to think about moving to virtual sources, virtual meetings, virtual trainings. Kind of depends on what you do, but you're going to really need to think about digital transformation in this regard. How can you switch it? Another thing for you to definitely consider is some scenario-based revenue modeling, just to kind of figure out what's our cash flow going to look like over the next year. Also going to want to contact your banks to see if loan covenants can be waived. Look into small business loans that are being made available right now. And kind of what I said before, succession planning. Identify key individuals in the finance function responsible for, let's say, bill payment, payroll, banking. Make sure those desktop procedures are documented. Make sure you have backup. Again, unfortunately, you got to think of the fraudsters. You got to think of, they always talk about the fraud triangle, incentives and pressures. Okay, so incentives and pressures right now are going to be going through the roof. People are going to start to get desperate. Unfortunately, I don't know if internal controls, financial controls may become lax. We're going to need to pay close attention to the transactions, really look at segregation of duties. If they weren't already digital, how is this getting handled? Do they need to transition to some kind of more digital way of doing the accounting function? These are all things to think about right now and to pay close attention to. So yeah, that was kind of a lot, but that is kind of, just high level. Anyone can feel free to reach out to me and any of the representatives of the firm if you want some more information, but that's kind of high level, some things for your different members of your risk council to be thinking about. So
Melissa, I know Walter's got a question here about financial planning, but before you ask that, is there a place that was a ton of information? It was all extremely helpful. Is there a place where they could go to get like a checklist for at least some of that?
Yeah, so also our GRF has a COVID response page, so check out our website, grfcpas.com. And so I'm constantly, probably weekly, putting out different information to be included, and I am coming up with another update here within the week or so that's going to have more of a comprehensive checklist. But I already have one out there for the IT considerations, some different revenue considerations. So yeah, go ahead and check out our website. Lots of good information, and also feel free to reach out to me personally.
Great. Melissa, I thought it was interesting. I think you're really right that a crisis like this, it does reveal weaknesses in systems and our abilities to work remotely and things like that. So I think that's definitely worth, once things get back to normal, kind of evaluating what went right and what went wrong. I think another interesting aspect of all this is I was speaking to someone whose firm had really never had anybody work remotely. And, obviously it was a real challenge for probably a week. And now all of a sudden people are enjoying it. So you kind of wonder if maybe there'll be a shift in the workforce after this is over, as far as more people wanting to work remotely.
I agree. Lots of benefits can be gained from this. So there could be a silver lining as far as digital transformation goes. They talk about, I always give the example of Blockbuster. They had risk management in place, but they weren't seeing the future of the digital transformation that was ahead of them. They just kept doing things as they've been doing them, and they'd always been successful, but they didn't see, digital transformation was such an important thing, and that's really affecting organizations right now during this COVID crisis.
Yeah, we did a Facebook Live event this morning, which is posted to our website and it's posted to Pat's website, and I think it's on LinkedIn too. But Pat's partner Corby, who is like the world's spreadsheet genius, came up with it's a really fantastic, it's a powerful spreadsheet, but it's also very intuitive and very easy to use. And I think that's also been made available on the websites. But what the spreadsheet does basically, Melissa, is you pump in normal operating expenses and your normal anticipated revenue, and then you can put in percentages. Like, let's say you're anticipating a 20% drop in income, something like that. And it'll automatically adjust all your numbers and kind of show you how long until your cash runs out. Then you can start adjusting expenses and try to, move that negative line back above the positive point to, stretch your existence out longer. It's a really powerful tool. Is that basically, when you look at financial planning in the midst of this, is that what you're basically focusing on, just trying to readjust your budgeting, try to get your best accurate picture of cash flow, and then try to make informed decisions about how to keep the company going?
Oh, that's exactly right. And this can be, and I think that's great. People should access that template. I think it's fantastic. You go into Excel, use Excel, and sometimes what I suggest is creating 3 columns. You got best case scenario, moderate case, worst case scenario. But you really can do it anyway, as long as you're looking to say, okay, what does this look like? What is our cash flow going to look like? And how do we need to adjust accordingly? So exactly, you're right on point with that. But organizations need to start doing that right now, and they need to start, managing their spending right now.
Melissa, some of the, a lot of the businesses that Walter and I are serving are smaller businesses, and maybe with 10 or less employees. And so of all the categories that you just mentioned a second ago, HR, operations, finance, information technology, if they're limited in their resources and their time and their ability to focus in on 1 or 2 categories, which categories would you put at the very top of the list where there's going to be the most risk for smaller businesses? We would typically suggest that it absolutely starts with HR and just everything having to do with your people. What would you say about that?
No, I agree. It would start with HR and that critical communication about keeping your employees safe, your stakeholders safe. Take care of all of that ultimately first. But also, you want to be able to keep your doors open as well. So, doing that cash flow analysis and then manage your spending. And you can do that by really effectively managing your purchases. With a small organization, hopefully that's a little bit easier. You're going to meet with that team, your risk counselor, or maybe if you only have 10 people in your organization, just get everyone together and have everybody, accurately look to forecast the purchases that they need to be making that are essential, and really come up with some common rules over how expenses are going to be managed during this crisis period and how important it is to manage that. If you don't already have some kind of procurement automation solution, I know it might be difficult to implement right now, but that can really help improve cash flow because it has a more rigorous authorization process that can help prevent some unauthorized spending that may occur. And it can also help keep people using only authorized vendors. And the reason I bring that up is because, it's important to talk, like I said, with your third parties and your vendors. But you may be able to at this time, because they're also struggling, since this is a worldwide crisis. You may be able to talk to them about negotiating some different types of payment structures, early payment discounts in some places, bulk discounts, or just discounts across the board because they need cash. Everyone's working and having a difficult time. There may be a way to satisfy both sides of this. I would say taking action there. And making those phone calls could make a really big difference, or sending the emails or whatever you got to do. And just really looking at your, what I call the procure to pay function. So like you had mentioned before, do that cash flow analysis, really look at your expense budgeting. Also look at your vendors. Talk to your vendors. Look at the selection process if any vendors come up at this time. Try to negotiate contracts, get discounts, and then really be careful about the purchase approval process. You may need to be more stringent at this time. Implement some emergency purchase approval. Maybe it needs to go through a few people, and then any invoices before they get paid. You may want to even look at the timing of your payments, extend it out a little bit more if you're not going to be able to get a discount, and then also consider rebates. Call your bank. Can you get some kind of credit card that allows for some significant rebates that could benefit you? And at that point, you're extending that cash outflow out even farther because you're using a credit card to get the benefit of the rebates and then pushing the cash outflow a little bit farther. So those are some ways to just try to keep your doors open and keep functioning during this crisis.
That's fantastic. So as we wrap up here, Melissa, today, and thank you again for your time. We know you're busy like everyone else serving small business owners in the midst of this crisis right now. So we appreciate you carving out the time to join us today. Here at the end, if there's anything else that you feel like should be mentioned that hasn't been mentioned so far, or if there's a question that we should have asked that we haven't, if you could just address that. And then, if you could mention your website page again, and then if anyone wants to contact you, how would they do that?
Yeah, sure. So, okay, when all this is over, and it will be over, one day, hopefully very soon. If you have formed a risk council, I would urge you to just keep that council formed and meet, let's say, monthly or quarterly. There's always something that comes up. The rate at which risks, come are so fast, whether it's cyber, some kind of HR, culture, whatever the next thing is, I don't know what it's going to be, but I urge you to keep working towards it and keep meeting and keep developing policies so that you can be more nimble, look to become more digitally transformed. I'm hoping is going to be a benefit of all of this. You can find my contact information on the website as well. It's www.grfcpas.com. Again, my name is Melissa Musser, so my contact information is under the leadership page. Feel free to reach out. I love to be of service. This is a passion of mine. And thank you again for listening in and asking me to be on the call today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us, Melissa. It's been very, very, very helpful. And I would just echo your sentiment that it's definitely, I think our website has a lot of good stuff on it. So I would just encourage listeners to go there. And I would also just say, to all our listeners, Pat and I, we've been doing the podcast for a few years now. So you all know, what our goals are. We like to help you grow the value of your business and help you plan for your exit. And that's exactly what we intend to do once things get back to normal. But in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to Pat at 301-859-0860 or call me at 301-951-9090 or go to both our websites and our LinkedIn. We've been putting up lots of what we believe is very timely and very helpful information in the form of podcasts and Facebook Live events and things like that. And we hope to continue doing it. So please take advantage of these, of the free access to these resources. I think they really will be helpful. Until next time, we do plan on continuing these. So until next time, thank you for listening and take care out there. Thank you.